Hello, ladies and gentlemen,
Coming
and
in hot.
welcome to the first episode of the Mushroom Supplies podcast. I am your host, Kristina Plummer, and these are our two co founders, Kevin Keeland and Rich Paula.
How's it going, everybody?
Nice to meet you all.
Hey, so today, guys, we wanted to talk about how Mushroom Supplies came to be, why Mushroom Supplies, and so we'll start with that. Kevin, would you like to start with how Mushroom Supplies came to be?
Sure. I think a big part of my background, and Rich is probably in a similar ballpark, but we came from a cannabis background. We were really into the idea of cannabis as medicine and passing that torch along as we grew this cannabis company. We soon realized that, there is a lot of available cannabis, but there's not a lot of available mushrooms out there. I've had multiple life-changing experiences with psychedelic mushrooms. Very much put myself in a position where it changed my outlook. It changed my view on certain things. It let me use different parts of my brain to really come to understandings that I could never come to. That was important to me. But what was really happening was I was trying to find a safe way to grow my own mushrooms. And I couldn't really do it easily. I was having trouble online. I was buying bags from, Minnesota or across the country, and they would show up either contaminated or they wouldn't work very easily. Something was wrong to the point where, customer service is telling us kind of you're shit out of luck. And there wasn't much information out there. So really this thing started because I wanted to learn how to grow mushrooms, and we couldn't figure it out without having 20 different sources of information, a lot of guess and check, a lot of losing and really trying to figure it all out. And Mushroom Supplies was a baby of necessity, really. It was this idea that we need to centralize this, we need to bring it together, and we need to make it easy for people to grow. So that's the short of it. I think there's a lot more to it, but really it's about changing the game for people and allowing them an easy one-stop shop to get mushroom supplies and be able to grow mushrooms, whether at home or commercially.
For me, it was, there's a lot of similar reasons why Kevin and I said, okay, let's take a look at this a little bit deeper. For me, personally, it started as a way to check the box on the supplementation side, on the mental health and the physical health side. My background for the last 20 years has been in sales, but 16 of it has been specifically in the nutritional category in health and wellness, and that's what I'd promoted. And I had studied this and preached this forever, and the cannabis thing kind of just fell into my lap, and I saw that as an opportunity, or I saw it as it was the next big thing. There was a big wave coming, and I saw the legalization happening. So for me, my involvement in cannabis was a lot driven because of just how big the opportunity was, and the benefits of cannabis kind of took a back seat to that. The reason being is I'm not a regular user of cannabis. I have used it. I do use it once in a while, but it's literally for me something that I use at the end of the day if I need something to calm my nerves down. It's something that's like if I'm nervous or I'm anxious about something, or I just need to get my mind to slow down a little bit, it's what I would use. On the mushroom side, the more and more I looked into functional mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, and then the psychedelic portion, the more I felt in alignment with who I am personally. And then I looked at, okay, well, is this something that I would get excited about, or would there be more people that got excited about? And it turns out from my conversations with people, more people were interested in getting into mushrooms, even on the functional and medicinal side, let alone the psychedelic side. That was something that I didn't really know too much. I had tried it a couple times when I was much younger. And similar to Kevin, I had some like absolutely amazing, they were borderline scary experiences at the very beginning. But in hindsight, I'm like, wow, this opened like a portal for me to think on such a different level, so much more clear than I had before, that I was like, there's something there. So for me, it was the health and the health benefits and the supplemental benefits and the mental health benefits first, and then the opportunity second. I saw that the opportunity was brewing and growing, and I saw the popularization of some of these products as I would go into supplement stores or go into health food stores. And every month or every couple months, there's more and more products that are on the shelf. So I was like, this is something that we need to explore. This is something that we should dig into. And it started with just our own journeys of learning to try to cultivate mushrooms. And as Kevin had mentioned, it was far from easy. We kind of specifically said, okay, you go down this path. I'm gonna learn what I learn, and I'm gonna apply what I learn and go in this path, and then let's compare notes and see where we landed. And so we both kind of had like very different paths. We were getting information from similar sources, but different paths. And the conclusion was very similar, even though we applied very different techniques. It was a lot of failure, like in terms of contamination, and a lot of just information that we're like, how do we make this easier? And is there an opportunity for us to be the voices, right, or the teachers of how to potentially make this seemingly simple, but there's a lot of things that need to be figured out in order for mushrooms to actually grow. And I think that's really what sparked my curiosity. So again, for me, it was first the personal benefits of the supplementation, the physical health of functional mushrooms and medicinal mushrooms, and the mental health of the psychedelic mushrooms.
Amazing. And so how did it come to be that, I'm sure you guys started with grain and substrate and working with tubs, and then maybe you went into bag tech. What was that process like for you? And how did you end up with the all-in-one grow kit in a bag?
Yeah,
what
Rich,
version are we on now?
The all-in-one was a result of frustration, right? We're like, because we did it the most traditional way. The most traditional way is you have the most common way that you see people growing is in a style called monotubs, right? Which are essentially these plastic bins that are modified with some filter patches, and they're cleaned obviously thoroughly. But I did it the most common, the most popular way, growing monotubs, which meant we were sourcing grain, which was claiming to be sterilized, but most of it came contaminated already in the box. So we know that's not true. So we purchased grain, purchased substrate separately. That was pasteurized. So there was an issue there already right out of the gates. We purchased spore syringes. Spore syringes are pretty readily available. The downside of spore syringes is you're absolutely starting from zero, which means your timelines for growing are going to be much greater. And time is not your friend in mushrooms, right? The more time you have, the more possibility of contamination you have. And that's exactly what happened for me. In my experience was, we did everything from scratch, from zero, bought the tub, bought the substrate, bought the grain, bought the spores, and still had and followed directions according to the directions that were widely popular across the internet, and still had a lot of failure. And I couldn't pinpoint where. And that was the part that first frustrated me as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. I go, okay, well, I can't build a business model if I don't know what my contamination rate, if I don't know what my success is going to be, right? If it's going to be all across the board, it's very difficult to project, any type of business in that sense. So the all-in-one bag was not something that Kevin and I invented. It was something that we kind of started doing some research on, and we're like, okay, well, maybe there's something here, because essentially all we're looking to do is eliminate any potential unnecessary steps that could lead to contamination. And the more steps that we could take away, the higher the likelihood of success. And that's exactly what happened when we put together what our version of the all-in-one bag is, which is putting the grain inside of the substrate, adding a self-healing injection port onto the bag, and then sterilizing the entire product so that you literally don't have to open the bag until your first harvest, until your first flush, right? With these monotubs, it was a daily routine of having to do fresh air exchanges, which meant opening the tubs, adding air, adding water to these things, and monitoring it. So there was too many contact points. There was too many potential points of contamination where I was like, we need to go down this route. Otherwise, people are going to fail, right?
Yep. So I'm on a similar track. I think that when you start talking about mushrooms, you have to talk about a lot of topics. There's not a quick version that you can just jump into and understand enough to be a very good grower, right? So one of the things that we found to be really limiting was the lack of sterility equipment in the household, whether it's a flow hood or the ability to be in a clean room wasn't something that people had access to at home. And so what was really important to us was limiting those steps, stopping the contamination by having less steps. And that was really the genius behind the product. I think in the past, it was something that people were steering away from because, they didn't really want to sterilize that much material. A lot of people wanted to just pasteurize the substrate, sterilize the grain, and then get that grain and put it into more substrate, right? So you didn't need to sterilize everything. You would just sterilize the grain. In our case, we sterilize everything, which allows us to not only have a shelf-stable product, but it gives us the opportunity to start from scratch with no variability. When you start talking about pasteurization, the technique is used in a way to knock down bacteria and really create a growing environment that's going to allow the mycelium a head start to get going. The problem is if that bag gets into a condition that is, say 100 degrees at a warehouse, it's not such a good thing for pasteurization because one of those colonies within those microorganisms, the groups of microorganisms are going to start going crazy. Once they go crazy, that contamination is either visible or non-visible. Either way, it's not great for mushrooms and it makes the problem a lot harder to diagnose. So again, sterility is everything. Taking away steps and being able to create a product that was really easy to use.
Okay, cool. So we've got the all-in-one bag that we're offering. We also have sterilized grain and substrate if people did want to grow. We just partnered with Max Yield Bins to offer a whole bundle for monotub growing. So I guess my question is, if someone were to just be starting out, what do you think the best method of starting out is? And why did we partner with Max Yield Bins instead of making our own monotubs?
Yeah, I think, I'll take that one. I think it's really important to understand that there's companies that have been around the space. Max Yield is somebody that we've seen in the space for a while. We love what they've done over there. They've created a high quality product. Something that is really special about what their product does is it allows that step from beginning to advanced grower becomes easier because the tub is designed in a way to give you simplicity. So when you say where do you start? I think it really matters about your investment. If you're willing to invest some capital and go get your flow hoods and take the time to build out a mushroom space, I think monotubs are a great way to go once you understand that you're fully committed and your investment's going towards flow hoods, etc. But when it comes to a product like the all-in-one, it's more of a product that you could just buy, play with it, learn a lot, and then say, you know what, I think I can do a little bit better in a monotub. And I think the monotub itself from Max Yield does a great job, not only on the yield side, but it also does a great job with its stability. I think that, being in a world where plastic is such a terrible thing, I think that one of the things we love about the Max Yield bin is the ability to reuse and recoup that plastic on a regular basis. So if I were to say, what would you want to do long term? I think a monotub makes a ton of sense. And then in the short term, I think a bag might be better for a quick learn.
Yeah. For me, I think the easiest step one for someone that's literally just trying to dabble, maybe they're looking to become a hobbyist and this is their first shot at it. What's great about the all-in-one is it allows the user to experience the key stages of mushroom cultivation, meaning injecting spores, right? Spore syringe or a liquid culture syringe, and seeing what the spores look like and seeing what the liquid culture looks like into the bag, right? Watching how colonization works, right? With mushrooms and specifically in this all-in-one bag, and how the mycelial network starts growing throughout that bag, right? I think watching that is a great learning tool for someone that's looking to try to make a decision on if this is something that's going to be, a fun hobby, something that they just want to maybe just grow their own mushrooms at home, or something that they want to get into as a business. And then the later part, which is the harvesting stage as it goes into fruiting conditions. So it allows you to essentially have a peek at what all those processes look like. And then if you feel comfortable with those, you're like, okay, I kind of get it. Then you can move to the monotub. monotub, as Kevin mentioned, there's a tremendous benefits, and it's still simple. It just requires a couple more steps, and those steps, unfortunately, are very, very, very important steps. And it all revolves around sterility, what Kevin was talking about. So, I mean, both of them are. It just really depends on, as Kevin said, what your financial commitment to is. Right? Maybe you want to just start with a bag that you could put into your pantry or anywhere in your kitchen, and that's simple, right? Or if you have a little bit more space, maybe you start with a bin, and you work with that bin. So there is no wrong way to do it, I guess you could say. And at the end of the day, we always talk about the Thomas Edison approach. You're going to mess it up, right? You're not going to have 100% success right out of the gates. There's always going to be things that you can improve on. And that's exactly what we're trying to do is make that first step, make that first leap for people that are looking to get into mushrooms, super comfortable, super easy, explain everything, and then you can make a decision on which direction you want to go in terms of your cultivation desires, right? Preferences.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we have the substrate and grain and the all-in-one. We have the max yield bins bundle with the substrate and grain, but that's specifically for dung-loving mushrooms. What is our plan to help people grow beyond dung-loving mushrooms?
Well, I think it's important to realize that a lot of dung-loving mushrooms are really closely related to psilocybin. The magic of psilocybin is the alkaloids that are produced when you grow it. So, just to go back to what we build recipes that are specific to building highly medicinal products, high in alkaloid levels, really quality, low in heavy metals. So something that is really touching right now, and touchy in the sense that it's not being talked about, is mushrooms are not considered agriculture in the way that you would consider soil to be agriculture. So when you're selling into stores, there's a lot less regulation. And so Mushroom Supplies, we've made it our core goal to only use, organic products coming from really clean sources so that the output of our product is high in quality. When you start talking about wood loving, there's variations of wood loving substrates that need to be put into the marketplace to have success for all the different types, ranging from, your oysters to your enoki to different types of mushrooms like lion's mane. So we're going to create a master's mix. A master's mix is a very popular blend of soy hulls as well as having a wood inside of this mix. That master's mix is also going to be met with a pro mix. That pro mix is going to be a little bit more complicated. I'm not going to touch on exactly what's in it quite yet because we are in our final stages of modification. But to give you some, subtle hints, we've got a little bit of straw and different wood complexity going on. And it really allows us to create that all-in-one effect, which is you can stab liquid culture directly into that wood block and use it in a way where you don't need to go and put grain transfers into bags. So we're trying to make an all-in-one product versus having to force you to put grain into a bag to make that mushroom grow. So it's coming soon. I think there's probably another 2 weeks of true R&D left. We've got a lot of wins, a lot of losses that we've been fighting with. But I would say another 2 weeks or so, we should be seeing our first version of that product released.
I would start back. KK, where did you say you stopped? It was like right when you were saying we'll have this product in a few weeks or something like that.
Yeah. We expect to have this product within a few weeks. I think that everything is moving along nicely, but back to Rich's Thomas Edison point, we do a lot of things to fail on purpose, to learn what not to do. We don't want to put a product out there that doesn't work. So we take on the brunt of that work, and we really believe that we've got something that will be shelf stable in version 1 within a couple of weeks here, right at the end of the end of September. We're looking to launch that product.
Amazing. I think that's going to be a key for us as a company, to branch out into all of the many benefits of mushrooms and everyone who wants to access them. I think a question for both of you is, what do you believe sets Mushroom Supplies apart from competitors out there?
Yeah. Rich, do you want to start?
Man, it starts with the people, right? Like if you don't have people that are passionate about what they're doing, then the end result is going to be a product that is a representation of that. So we have some absolutely amazing leaders in our company that have helped us build a culture where, we enjoy coming in here on a daily basis. The energy is high and people are genuinely excited about what they're doing. And I think you have to start there before you go into anything else, right? So, what are the ingredients of our products different than other suppliers? The short answer is no, right? I mean, the ingredients in our products are accessible to anybody, right? So that doesn't differentiate us. The big part in terms of like, okay, what the actual process that sets us apart from everyone else is just the scale that we can, the scale of sterility that we have, right? The scale at which we can create sterile products. And that is not an easy product, right? Like when we're talking about sterilization, we're talking about the same level of sterilization that hospitals have to use to create tools and stuff that are safe for doctors to work with patients, right? So sterilization just means you have to kill everything. And the way that happens is with heat and with pressure, right? And those things have to be correct, right? Now we go a step further and use things like bioindicators to make sure that everything in those bags is absolutely killed off. But sterilization, make no mistake about it, is really the biggest differentiator in the space of suppliers. Most other suppliers in the space, there are some that are sterilizing, just not at the scale that we are, right? They may be using a 150 liter or 300 liter autoclaves or the microblues and stuff, and that's great and all. But in our sterilization capacity, we could do 60,000 liters at a time per run, and that's growing. And we built an engine that could do 4 times that. Right. So we're really investing into the future with this company, and we understand it's still really early. Like, now you're starting to hear more and more people talking about the benefits of functional mushrooms. You see a lot of like mushroom coffee products that are coming out, all sorts of like really great things that I love that are coming out. And now it's just a matter of just making sure that we create quality products, create quality bags so that people can create quality mushrooms, so that we see quality all the way from seed to sale, right? From the beginning to the very end product.
Spore to sale.
From spore to sale. That's correct.
Hey.
What I would love to kind of go back to Rich's point on is the idea that you have to operate like a real commercial business with really good people. And we have really, really good people, and we have really, really good process and standard operating procedures. I think in the mushroom space, there's lots of variability, and that variability leads to a lot of failure that is unknown or you can't even point to. So with us, it's all about batch numbers. It's all about data. It's all about finding the right amount of sterilization time over the right amount of, heated hours. So there's a lot going into it, all the way from bioindicators to, actual math going on as to what the steam, going into the actual sterilizer is doing. So I think it's really important to understand the science is really important to us. It's also important to us that the sterilization is done at the highest standard. That is second to none. The last thing is customer service. People come to us not only to get product, but get support. And I think that when you're buying from a brand, they need to be able to support the product itself. So a big part of that is being able to reach out to our support team and live chat, SMS, being able to actually talk to these people and get some support for the product is very important.
Awesome. And where do you see Mushroom Supplies in, let's say, 5 years? What is your vision for the future of Mushroom Supplies as a business, but mushrooms as a tool for humans? So 2-part question.
Yeah, I think Mushroom Supplies should be not only the largest supplier of mushroom supplies in the United States, but we should be providing, over 150 jobs in 5 years, being in a position to where we can actually scale across the United States and provide mushroom supplies to small farms and families across the United States to create more businesses, more opportunities. I think that in 5 years, this company is putting thousands of commercial farms in business, allowing them to scale and invest without having the high cost of sterility at the beginning. I think that our business is in a really good position to allow this economy of mushrooms to grow so that we can get into packaging, alternative packaging. We can get into the health and wellness space. We can start launching, wellness products that are tied back to farms that are putting in the processes to make sure they're making organic, high quality mushrooms. There's a lot to be said about what we can do when we spread our wings and we grow with other commercial growers and allow them the lack of startup costs. It's a very important thing to be able to build a business with just sweat equity. And if you can do that by buying mushroom bags that are already sterile and growing from one bag to 10 bags to 1,000 bags, I think it makes total sense for these small farms to exist all over the United States. One of the interesting facts about mushrooms is that you don't find a lot of mushrooms in national grocery stores because the way that they are stored and packed and picked, they are not something that lasts for a very long time. And so it gives a huge opportunity to decentralization, to allow these small farms to make a ton of money. And we want to be there to support them all the way through. We want to be able to get their startup cost down to nothing and be able to support the product as they grow through this process of becoming a farm. This also applies to the at-home growers, the kids, the parents that are trying to teach their kids about how food works, how health and wellness works. I think it's an important part to make sure that these homes have something that gets your hands dirty, if you will, about how to do stuff in the wild. I think it's missing. I think kids are stuck in screens, and I think it's important to get back to doing stuff with our hands and do-it-yourself type of growing.
Yeah. I mean, my biased opinion, I feel like Mushroom Supplies is positioned to be the largest supplier of mushroom supplies in 5 years. But the byproduct of that is I think we're also going to be the largest platform for education on how to grow mushrooms, right? And I know that based on just our experience last year, as we had last year was our first full year in business, and we were in massive momentum. So we saw this mass rush to an excitement about mushrooms, but this huge gap in education, right? Where to the point where we had to like slow people down. We're like, wow, we understand that you recognize the opportunity and that you want to do this as a business and that you have maybe experience in cannabis or whatever else, but this is a completely different business, and you need to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing. So through that process, we became educators, right? And so now, we're obviously in the process of putting learning management systems together and just basically trying to centralize all the information that Kevin, myself, you, the entire team has kind of just gathered over the last few years, literally just scouring the internet, networking with my colleges, going to different events all over the country, right? And seeing exactly what's happening in the space. That's really what drives me. And that's what really I see it, right? Like, yes, largest supplier of mushroom supplies, educators. And the byproduct of that is what Kevin was saying, right? Maybe you're going to see a lot more mushroom stands at farmers markets. You should see a lot of these supplements, high quality supplements readily available to the public. And then, as we start seeing a bigger uptick in interest in people growing their own foods, right? Their vegetables, their gardens and stuff like that. This is, it's in perfect alignment with that goal. And, we're going to make sure that we work our butts off for the next 5 years to realize those goals.
Mushrooms for everyone.
Mushrooms for everyone.
What about global expansion? What is the current, I guess, is there legislative rules around going beyond the United States? Is that something that's...
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll start first, and then Kevin, I know you got a bunch. We already have interest from our neighboring countries. As a matter of fact, I think there are some people that even sold some of our products in those countries. So we know that the interest is there. It's a little bit behind where the U.S. is and where California specifically is, or where Oregon is. But they definitely have, just like it's the same countries that are going through the same cannabis stuff as the US was. Those are the same countries that are eyeing psychedelics and the legalization, and essentially just like taking a pair of binoculars and going, okay, what's going on in Oregon? What's going on in California? Does this help people? Does this help the state, right? Does this drive tax revenue? And if it checks all those boxes, then they'll start keep the move down that direction. I don't think they'll ever really step ahead of where the United States or specific states are in terms of, but they'll be definitely right behind it. So as we have things like just today, we had some bills that are going through in California. Let me see if I could pull this up real quick. Basically says the bill would legalize the possession and cultivation of small amounts of certain entheogenic plants and fungi for adults 21 and older. What does that mean? That means that we're moving in the right direction, right? Does that mean that it's legal yet? No, right? Does that mean that you're going to find psilocybin products on the shelves of stores next month? No, right? But the ball is being pushed down and momentum is gaining and other states are kind of catching on. And then when you have states like Oregon and Colorado that are doing their thing, right, then it really gives us assurance that they're doing it for the right reasons, right? Oregon specifically, who's kind of taken the charge, who already has licenses issued to cultivators, right? So you can, if you have this license, you can legally cultivate psilocybin mushrooms. However, there's no retail channel, right? Meaning that you don't get a retail license. You get essentially a license to administrate it, which means that a cultivator can sell to a clinic, and then that doctor, that expert, can administer the medicine to the patient. What's great about that is you literally get to control the environment when that person is going through that psychedelic experience, and you get to really focus on the benefit of what psychedelics can do with you, as opposed to just letting everybody out in the wild with a bag of mushrooms and seeing what happens, right? So in terms of legalization worldwide, and Kevin, you probably have some more facts on that. It's coming. It's happening. In some cases, a lot of the stuff on the mushroom side is happening quicker than a lot of cannabis stuff, right? Which is also really exciting. But Kevin, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you're in a unique position with our product because it is in the middle of an agricultural product and a soil product. If you were to ship this product to another country, a lot of times you would be viewed with agricultural lenses to try to make determinations if this product can be imported or exported. It is pretty complicated. I think that there is a little bit of work to be done on our side logistically to figure out what these different designations might be. But if you're sending a sterile product from one border to another, there shouldn't be any issue. The problem is the qualification of, hey, how do we know it is sterile, and what do we know, what is this product, right? So we're still working through that. From that as a legal standpoint is already tough enough. I think that, state by state, we're going to see psychedelics become legalized and decriminalized slowly but surely, just like cannabis. I think it'll go at a faster rate than cannabis, but I do think it's going to be something that takes time. So I think for now, the global expansion is in our sights, but we just don't have any way to know what the countries are going to consider our product. So we haven't spent more attention on that. We really want to focus on the United States. Like you said, in the 5-year plan, we really believe the United States is the focus for that 5 years. There's a lot of market here. But with that said, North America, Mexico, Canada, these are places that we really have interest in, and we'll probably be there sooner than later. And then once you start talking about Europe, it's really a matter of how do we get into Europe overall, and then how do we distribute from there. And it's going to be about agricultural laws touching on mushrooms or fungus or not. And we'll find out really soon.
Awesome. I think just for clarification, so that people know that are listening to this, that our products do not contain liquid culture or spores. We're simply providing growing media. I guess a question would be, where would people go for liquid spores or culture? Liquid culture or spores.
Yeah, I think the best spot to go is Hello Spore. We have a new partnership with Hello Spore. They're a really high quality, lab tested, quality controlled company. They're going to be offering liquid culture as well as psychedelic spores for microscopy. They are really second to none. They have really high quality products. They do a lot of different microscope tests. If you have any need to get those things for yourself, we have a coupon code MushroomSupplies. It gets you 5% off anything at Hello Spores.
Hello Spore.
Hello Spore. Sorry. Even better. Hello Spore.
Hello Spore. All right.
Wow.
Well, let's segue into the last question I have for each of you. Kevin, what is your favorite thing about working with mushrooms?
Number one, I think this is the coolest thing about mushrooms is the idea of remediation. I've been reading a ton about remediation lately, but one of the interests I have is how mushrooms are going to be used to really save the world. And every day I come across a new use case. So I think the idea of mushrooms being able to clean soil and take toxins from the soil and put it into a storable format and get it out of the ground is amazing. I think that, being able to use mushrooms as a secondary packaging for products like the mycelium itself, whether it's even leather or, the interior of a box, whether you're buying an iPhone or whatever, you can eventually be able to build out mycelium based products. So I think number one, being in the mushroom space is really just about how these mushrooms are going to change the world. That doesn't even include the psychedelic side, which is, changing one mind is a really important thing, let alone all the millions of people that psychedelics are going to touch.
I love it. Well, just to get people excited, we are going to be interviewing a doctor who is actually, she is the doctor of fungalsolutions.com, and she is all about mycoremediation. So really excited to just have all of these incredible people on the podcast that are doing incredible things with mushrooms to save the planet. So Rich, that is a question for you. What is your favorite thing about mushrooms?
It's funny because the common questions when people ask, like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite type? I really don't always have just one specific favorite thing. I have a group of things that I really like about it, right? And that collectively makes it my favorite. So there isn't really one aspect of it, but to kind of touch on what Kevin was talking about, I mean, the innovation that's happening with just, the case uses of mycelium. Mercedes-Benz is researching it and using it to make leather type of goods for their interior, right? I mean, we're talking about one of the most luxurious brands of automobiles that's looking at mushrooms, right? What business do they have in mushrooms other than the fact that they know what they're doing, right? They understand. So is it the economics? Is it the environmental impact? Is it easier? Just the fact that maybe leather is not just going to be as readily available in decades to come and stuff like that. And they're trying to think ahead. So I like the fact that it's heading down that direction. Personally, I just love what the functionals do for my body. Right. So I think that's a reason enough for me to make them my favorite is, at 40 now, my health goals are a little bit different than when they were in my 20s and 30s. Now it's just about like keeping this thing together as long as I can and making sure that, everything's working properly. And I wholeheartedly know that, taking mushroom supplements on a daily basis is a big part of why I'm able to really focus on things like my gut health, right? Digestion, right? It's not about what you eat, it's what you can digest, right? You can eat all the best foods in the world. If you don't have the right stuff in your stomach to digest it correctly, then you're not absorbing. And then again, we talked about the mental benefits on the psychedelic side. There isn't one specific thing. I just really like it all. I mean, down to just, what's great about when you're working with these bags is you almost get to see like personalities, right? It sounds weird, right? But you're like, wow, this little change caused this. And like, you can see how they react to things much different than plants would do. And it's really fascinating. And I'm just, it's humbling, right? Because it's always going to teach you some lessons, right? When you think you've got it figured out, it'll smack you in the face and go, no, there's more layers to this. So it's a culmination of everything. First and foremost, health. And then probably the last thing would be just like where it's going in terms of, other use cases for mycelium.
Love it. Yeah, I'm really excited to feature some incredible people that are doing amazing things with mushrooms. As you mentioned, mushroom leather. I was just reading an article the other day about self-healing leather, so that that is made of mushrooms, so that if it rips, it self-heals, which is just, it's kind of, wow. Yeah, it's mind-blowing, but I think that's the role that mushrooms are here to play. What I love most about them is that, you have the mycelial network, also known as the wood wide web, in the natural forests, being one of the largest organisms on the planet that communicates or allows trees to communicate with one another, so that if one needs more water, it's going to help them heal. And I think that's what mushrooms are starting to do with humans, that we're all recognizing, oh, we need to be healing from the experience of being a human, because being human is suffering. Life is suffering. And I think that mushrooms have the power to help us all heal. So that is why I am here doing what I am at Mushroom Supplies. And I'm grateful that you both have created this company to give me the opportunity to put mushrooms in more people's hands and to put healing in their own hands by growing their own. So thank you guys for your expertise, your passion, your knowledge. And any last remarks for our audience?
No, just get growing. Start trying it. Learn how to grow. It's really fun. You'll get some good stuff at the end of
Get started. Go to MushroomSupplies.com. Go to HelloSpore.com. Use Mushroom Supplies for that discount. Get your first bag and get started.
Let us know how we can help. Bye, everybody.
I love it. Bye, guys. Thank you.